Color classics for eyes, lips, fingertips. Classy, convincing you've waited all your life to look like this. Raid Yard Guard, the outdoor fogger that sprays up to 20 feet. Yard Guard kills bugs now, keeps them away for hours.
Great news for dieters who love spaghetti, potatoes, and bread. New starch blocker tablets let you eat bread, potatoes, pasta, minestrone, and dessert without the absorption of starch calories. Amazing as it sounds, one tablet blocks the digestion of the starch calories in a cup of minestrone soup, 2 cups of spaghetti and meatballs, 1 potato, 4 slices of bread, and a brownie. These tablets contain AMX powder, hospital tested for safety and effectiveness. Here's how to order.
For MasterCard or Visa card holders only, call toll-free 1-800-228-2060. That's 1-800-228-2060. Or send $9.95 today to Starch Blocker, Box 54556, Atlanta, Georgia. Others charge double. Our price is only $9.95. So call now for faster service. Phone 1-800-228-2060. Operators are standing by now. Phone 1-800-228-2060.
A part-time job only pays for part of his education. Support the United Negro College Fund. A mind is a terrible thing to waste.
TV 36, WATL, Atlanta.
This is the Financial News Final from TV 36, along with Hillary Miles and Ross Benedict. I'm Mitch Leopard. In the news today, stock prices drifted at a lower level late this afternoon as many investors took off early for the 4th of July holiday. Trading was slow. The Dow Jones Industrial Average, which eased 0.28 on Wednesday, was off 4.94 to 86.98 around 3. It finished 1982's first 6 months, 63.07 in the minus column. Declines led advances 858 to 431 among the 1,725 issues crossing the New York Stock Exchange tape. The 5-hour turnover today amounted to about 39,100,000 shares, which was down from the 55,550,000 traded during the corresponding period yesterday, when Salomon Brothers was conducting a massive portfolio reshuffling for New York City's pension funds, and prices were lower in moderate trading of American stock exchange issues. As we take a look at the Stock Market Observer, we find that volume on the New York Exchange finished up the day today at just over 48 million shares. Upside issues only 9.8 million, downside almost 32 million. The New York tick a minus 122 with the index at 62.58. The Dow Jones Composite down 3.56, the Dow itself down 8.84. Transportation's down 3.89 and utilities down 1.11. On the American Exchange, the volume 3.1 million shares with the average price of all shares trading 248.77. On the NASDAQ, the composite was down 0.72. Standard & Poor's index of all 500 was at 108.76. Analysts said today that there was little news to influence investors on the first day of the third quarter, and with the 4th of July holiday approaching, many investors headed for the beaches early.
On the trading floor today, MAPCO was one of the most active New York Stock Exchange listed issues. It was following a block of 500,000 shares that was trading at 29. NLT Corporation and American General were also in the spotlight today. The companies right now engaged in a takeover battle for each other. Waste Management, which is running into opposition to its plan to buy Chem Nuclear, was active with a block of 276,800 shares that crossed the tape at 28. American Express attracted attention today. Blocks of 200,000 shares and 155,000 shares, both crossing at 40 1/4. Westinghouse Electric was at one point today. Consolidated Edison has sued the company over recent problems in its Indian Point No. 2 nuclear power plant in New York. Ocean drilling and exploration was higher, and Murphy Oil was also higher today. Murphy said that it has increased its holding in ocean drilling to 58.6%. Ford Motor, which plans to close all of its plants for 2 weeks as a part of its own vacation plan, was down at one time today. Automakers have pared their third quarter production schedules from year-ago levels because of slow sales. Service Corporation International won support after the company boosted its dividend about 14 cents a share to 11 cents today. And on the Amex, Dome Petroleum and Great Lakes Chemical, they were both recorded to be on the active side.
The 10% tax cut that went into effect as part of the administration's plan to get the economy moving again did not inspire investors to run to their brokerages. President Reagan said Wednesday night that his tax cut program was essential to lasting economic recovery and warned Congress not to weaken it, although the budget deficit is extremely high. The Senate Finance Committee Republicans reportedly have reached agreement on $100 billion in tax increases to cut the budget deficit, but the package did not include a $3 a barrel foreign and crude oil tax that had been rumored Wednesday. In the afternoon, the government said May construction spending rose 1.3%. Also, key California housing starts jumped 24.4%. The 0.3% hike in the May index of leading economic indicators and 1.5% jump in factory orders sparked hopes the long year recession may be over. Federal funds rates, bank charged one another, were stable in the early going after fluctuating wildly Wednesday and creating confusion through the investment community.
Well, coming up in this half hour, we'll have the Ney report coming up next, followed by a market update with Pierce Hammond of the J.C. Bradford Company, and of course, Ed Blumenthal's report on commodities. All coming your way this half hour on Financial News Final. Stay with us.
No matter how hard you work, you'll go nowhere fast without the right information at the right time. Well, Business Week has the information you need to do a better job, win you promotions, earn you raises. And as you move up, Business Week helps you keep up with new techniques, new products, new market opportunities. Business Week, it'll help you every step of the way, all the way to the top. Call Business Week now and save more than $21 off the single copy price.
You'll get 29 weekly issues at the low basic rate of only $19.95.
And with your paid subscription, you get free this guide to personal business worth $5.95. Whether you're on top or on the way up, call Business Week now, because Business Week means business every week.
To get Business Week in your gift, call toll-free 1-800-453-4001. 29 issues are just $19.95. This basic rate saves you more than $38 off the cover price. Call 1-800-453-4001.
Welcome back. Further in the news today, bond prices were mixed in early trading with government issues falling, corporates unchanged, and municipal showing some gains today. Many traders were waiting the results of the U.S. Treasury auction late in the day of $4 billion in 7-year notes to see if investors were following through on their active bidding earlier in the week on a $4 billion issue of 4-year notes. This week's auctions are viewed as a key test for what is expected to be a deluge of Treasury borrowings in the months ahead to finance what are projected to be record federal budget deficits. In the secondary market for government issues today, both intermediate and long-term issues were off 13/32 of a point. Short-term governments declined 4/32. This according to the investment banking firm of Solomon Brothers Incorporated.
In Europe today, traders and investors detected a slight firming of U.S. interest rates today, and that sent the dollar higher in most of the foreign exchange trading. Dealers in Frankfurt say that the dollar rally was sparked specifically by a slightly firmer federal funds rate, as well as a general expectancy of a further rise. The only currency that the dollar lost ground against was the Canadian dollar. Meanwhile, gold fell in London and Zurich as yesterday's rally fizzled out somewhat. The precious metal closed in both centers at $310.25 an ounce. That was down about $7.50 in London and $8.25 down in Zurich.
Gulf Oil Corporation announced Thursday that it's donating $200,000 to a summer jobs program for young people in Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, Atlanta, and Houston. James E. Lee, chairman and chief executive officer of the nation's 6th largest oil company, said the money will be used by government and community-based agencies to hire disadvantaged youth. Gulf said cities and agencies receiving the funds expect to hire more than 220 young people for a variety of summer positions. Gulf has always made it a practice to provide summer jobs for youth, Lee said, but this year, in light of widespread youth unemployment, we felt that we needed to make an extra effort to help with one of the more serious problems facing youth.
Well, you may have heard about this next story. I know we have here at Channel 36. The Procter & Gamble company today announced that it is taking legal action to stop the spread of rumors associating the company with Satanism or devil worship. The company today filed suits in Atlanta and Pensacola against several individuals who are charged with libeling the character of Procter & Gamble by circulating false and malicious statements about the company and by calling for a boycott of its products. Suits were filed against Mike Campbell of Atlanta and against Mr. and Mrs. William J. Moore in Pensacola. In those suits, Procter & Gamble charges that each individual made statements or distributed literature which stated that Procter & Gamble supported Satan and that its trademark was a satanic symbol. They also encouraged others to stop buying Procter & Gamble products, the company claimed. Now, Procter & Gamble is asking the courts to stop the individuals for further activity and for compensatory and punitive damages. Griffin Bell, former U.S. Attorney General, will be representing Procter & Gamble in the Atlanta suit. Patrick G. Emanuel will be representing the company in the Pensacola suit. Today's action follows an announcement last week from Procter & Gamble that it was taking aggressive steps to stop the rumor. The rumors typically report that the company's Moon and Stars trademark is a symbol of Satanism and devil worship, and that a Procter & Gamble executive discussed Satanism on a nationally televised talk show. Producers of the shows mentioned and Procter & Gamble have confirmed that the stories are totally false.
The project of Atlanta architect John Portman to build a 50-story luxury hotel in New York City's Times Square district, which has been hung up since 1972, has at last obtained a final green light. Portman made that announcement just last night. He said a deal for construction financing was signed with a group of lenders led by the manufacturer's Hanover Trust Company. The $320 million hotel will be built on the site of the Piccadilly Hotel, which will be razed. It will be owned by Portman and the Marriott Corporation of Washington and managed by Marriott. It is to be completed by mid-1985.
Landmark Communications Incorporated says it has extended cable television programming of its Weather Channel subsidiary to 24 hours daily, following an agreement with Westinghouse Electric's Corporation Group W subsidiary. The company said that Group W has agreed to stop using the period from 2,000 to 2,200 hours Eastern Time to present movies under its home theater network service.
It is 11 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock. Continuing with the news this evening, the Reagan administration has endorsed a large tax increase proposal that, among other things, would double the levy on cigarettes to 16 cents a pack. The proposal was drafted by Republican members of the Senate Finance Committee. It also would withhold taxes on interest and dividend income and reduce the tax deduction now allowed for medical expenses. In all, the plan envisions 24 separate tax increases. And another money-making move, the government says it will try to sell 60,000 acres of federal property and use the money to pay off the national debt. The land involved is only a fraction of the total federal land holding. A new Associated Press survey of grocery bills around the country find prices up again. The AP Market Basket survey found prices at the store up 1% last month, following a May increase of 1.3%. 12 minutes past the hour, and time now for the Ney Report. The Ney Report, brought to you by Richard Ney and Associates, and now by hotline, Mr. Richard Ney.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. For a long time, I've been telling you that Wall Street investment bankers have been acting as principals for major pension funds and getting these pension funds to sell stock to them at bottom prices. These are pension funds that they manage, mind you. And then they will buy from these pensions this stock as principals. For proof of this, I want you to read today's Wall Street Journal for the story on what Salomon Brothers was doing yesterday for a number of the pension funds it manages. And the Wall Street Journal says this, quote, if Salomon Brothers was unable to find a buyer or seller at the specified prices, Salomon would become a principal in the trade. End of quote. Now let me ask you this. One of the stocks was that Salomon traded yesterday was Shell Oil. It was dropped 6 points. Don't you think that's a nice discount if you're a principal to be able to buy a stock from the pension fund that you're managing? Of course, that's very hard on the pensioners. Now, what's interesting about this is that there's no real disclosure, no accountability, and no regulation of any of these trades, as far as I can tell. Now, Salomon Brothers pointed out that it was also selling as a principal. which is also what my computer printouts have been telling me that has been going on for some time. I've been telling you that I've seen two kinds of action in this market. Big block accumulations going on, and in a number of stocks, big block distributions. So you're getting a market that's going to see a lot of stocks going down as a lot of stocks are going up. Now, about today's 8-point decline in the Dow, that is just part of window dressing, in my opinion, that carry the Dow down in order to make it possible for stock exchange insiders to accumulate more stock again today. Now, I see these big block accumulations in many stocks in the Dow at their lows of the day or very near their lows. That's important for you to realize that the function of every decline is to enable stock exchange insiders to accumulate. Now, as I'm talking to you, I'm looking at a manually prepared big block sheet for me over 100-odd stocks which I have in front of me. Tonight I will get my big block printouts, and these big block printouts are telling me, without any question, that we can expect a very important bull market ultimately. But over the short term, what I'm expecting is a rally. A rally that will carry the Dow up sharply, and at the top of this rally, I expect to see a lot of specialist short selling, which will then cause the rally to terminate and stock prices to decline. Now, in the course of that decline, I would not be at all surprised to see, or even at the as this rally proceeds, I would not be at all surprised to see a great many stocks being advanced that have had these big accumulations in them. So that when the Dow is then declining again, you'll see these stocks continuing up. In the report which I'm publishing tomorrow, I have prepared a list of Dow stocks which I have analyzed, and I have indicated in this list what I expect to see happening to the Dow stocks. I've prepared 15 for this issue, and I'll prepare 15 of the Dow stocks for the next issue. I point out where I expect to see them going on the upside in the rally, and then where I expect to see them going on the downside. This is Richard Ney in Pasadena. Good day.
For further information on the Ney Report, call toll-free 800-423-4859. That's 800-423-4859.
I am Richard Ney, publisher of the Ney Report. I also have a telephone update service and an option report. I'd like to suggest that you try these services. As many of you already know, it can be the best investment you'll ever make.
The Ney Report with twice-weekly telephone updates can be yours for $160 for 6 months or $250 for 1 year. The Ney Option Report with twice-weekly telephone updates is also $160 for 6 months or $250 for 1 year. For the best service and savings, subscribe to both reports with 4 telephone updates per week for just $250 for 6 months or $400 for 1 year. These services are the next best thing to having a managed account. 1 year subscribers will also receive a free copy of Mr. Ney's book, Making It in the Market. You may charge your subscription to your Visa or MasterCard. Call toll-free 800-423-4859. That's 800-423-4859.
Our market update for this hour. My guest, Chet Davidson of the J.C. Bradford Company, who's going to comment on what's happening to the market. Things were looking so well this week. We seem to have a rally. Then today, look at it, it's down 8.66. Is it because of President Reagan's speech last night, which maybe did not give enough to the American public? What do you see as happening today?
Well, sometimes you see the market disappointed over what's not said in a speech, and that may be somewhat the case today. I think what we're seeing now, Hillary, is we're going to see a fairly volatile stock market during the month of July.
And I think we're at a point, a very critical point for the stock market, just as far as interest rates are concerned. And I think the stock market has not figured out which way the interest rates are going to go.
We see that. We read it in the news every hour. One minute everybody's encouraged. We see, in fact, we've been watching interest rates go up and down. These broker loan rates have been going up and down.
Right.
Why is that happening?
Well, it's just, there are too many variables out there at this point. The budget problems, in combination, in conjunction with the tax cut stimulus, which went into effect today, it's just a little bit too difficult to forecast the absolute results that are going to come out of that, and when those results are going to really take hold. So I think you have a stimulus on one hand, which is good news for the market. It may be bad news for interest rates. That is bad for the market. At some point, for the stock market to really have a good, firm rally, you have to have interest rates come down below a point where it can be justifiable for someone to get say a 12% return on stocks and think he's doing better than he could in a fixed income investment. So at some point, that has to be the case for a long-term bull market to take hold. So
you're not sounding very bullish. You're indicating.
No, I am pretty bullish, really. But I think people should be now looking at the stock market, and they should be, looking at individual, well-capitalized companies, buying those companies on weakness in the next month or two, and I think they'll do very well. But I think in the interim, I think there are going to be some very good-looking fixed income bond opportunities this month and maybe even into next month available.
These are tax-free bonds that you're referring to?
Well, yes, really both, but I think the best bargains as far as interest rates are concerned now are in the tax-free area. And I've been talking about them for a long time now, and I continue to be very positive. Anytime you can get a 13.5% tax-free return on your investment, when an equivalent U.S. government or taxable return may only be a 14% or 15%, 16% at the most, I think you're doing very well, and even in a 25 or 30% bracket, you're going to be better off in a tax-free.
Really? Usually when we talk about tax-free, we talk about people who are in the 50% tax bracket, but you would recommend certain bonds for people even...
Oh, certainly. I mean, it's strictly arithmetic. You work the numbers out, and even at a 30% bracket, at a 13% return, you'd have to be earning about 18 or 19% on a taxable equivalent bond to duplicate it. You can't find that, so you are better off even even below 30% right now, because the tax-free yields are right now about 87-90% on average of the taxable yields, which is just unheard of.
Now, many people are afraid of getting into any kind of a bond because they are long-term. Are there any short-term bonds that you would recommend?
Now, that's true. A lot of people get a little leery about a 20-year or 30-year maturity on a bond, although I don't feel they should because they're very marketable and very liquid. But
well, you haven't bought one, so you didn't buy one 20 years ago.
That's right. But there are short-term tax-frees available, and a lot of people are not aware of them. There are short-term tax-free bonds available with maximum maturities of 1 year. Now, these are called tax anticipation notes, and they're exactly what they say. Localities issue these notes to raise revenues for a specific local purpose in anticipation of paying them back with their tax revenues when they're due. All right. So you can buy these notes. Saw one this morning matured in nine months. And the current yield on the bond was 10.25%. Now that is extremely, and that's tax-free. That is extremely strong. But there are a lot of tax-free situations that people are not aware of, and that's one of them. A booklet that explains some of these nuances is available and goes into these tax anticipation notes in some details. And I would recommend them to your viewers.
Well, we thank you for that bit of information on short-term tax-free bonds. Chet Davison of the J.C. Bradford Company. We have on the line Mr. Ed Blumenthal, who is standing by with his commodity report from the Mercantile Exchange in Chicago. Ed?
It's time for our commodity update. Now, live from Chicago, directly from the Mercantile Exchange, here's Ed Blumenthal.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is Edward Blumenthal live from the Chicago Board of Trade, giving you your market wrap-up on the commodity markets. A very exciting day over at the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, particularly in the case of the interest rates, for the Federal Reserve added over $1 billion in customer repurchase agreements at 10:41 this morning. This started to push the Treasury bills and the bonds higher, and then we ran into what was known as an auction. The Federal Reserve had an auction, and the results are as follows. September Treasury bonds up 3 points on the day, closing at 60.25. September Treasury bills over at the Mercantile Exchange closed at 87.16, up 22 points for the day. I don't care what the economic indicators came out yesterday, recession is not over, as far as I'm concerned. Even though these bills were up slightly, even that it's news that it should make the recession come to somewhat of an end, you're not going to see it. In fact, I don't even feel personally that we'll see interest rates moving to lower levels in the near future. Those are my views, and information on the money supply will be coming out soon. On to some other markets at the Mercantile Exchange. August cattle up sharply, 22 points, closing at 87.16. August cattle, up 30 points on the day. But the August pork bellies, a definite profit-taking day on this, closing on the pork belly 74.60, up 2 cents on the day, 200 points. As far as I'm concerned, this is opening the door for selling opportunities if you're interested. When to know the time to sell in pork bellies, feel free to call in for me. I'll be happy to tell you the points that we're looking at. On to some other markets. August live cattle's closed 59.02, up 122 points on the day. Onto the foreign currencies. The currencies both closed somewhat higher on the day. September Swiss franc closed 48.98, up 38 on the day. And the pork bellies, the British pound closing at 175.30, up 70 on the points. These foreign currencies are not moving to higher levels. This was profit-taking. It's a technical correction. If you're looking to be involved in the foreign currencies, look to establish short positions on rallies. Now, I want to talk about the Chicago Board of Trade. I want to talk about the grain markets, but first, I want to stop so we can tell you what we're offering you this week. I'll be back in a minute.
Showing a consistent profit in the commodities market is a tough job, even tougher today because of wide fluctuations and an uncertain economy. Ed Blumenthal can help you maximize your returns while at the same time minimizing your exposure. As a broker with the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, Ed searches out the most profitable investments, everything from financial futures, stock index trading and spread trading, to commodities like meat and grain futures, precious metals, and foreign currencies. Ed Blumenthal works each market day to make sure that the accounts he manages receive the best return possible. Can you afford anything less? If you're interested in the commodities future trading market, call Ed Blumenthal, collect, at 312-427-9033. For your free weekly market letter from the Chicago Board of Trade and the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, that's 312-427-9033.
Indicators came out yesterday. The Treasury auctions came out today. The Federal Reserve made moves today, but you have to understand one thing about commodities. These auctions, the Federal Reserve, everything that they do is not going to mean a hill of beans unless you are directly wired into the trading floor. This is something that I feel is a real plus. And don't even consider to trade commodities unless you're wired into the floor and have your own people working on the floor for you. And that's something that we can offer here for you. On to some other markets. Silver closing at $5.90 today, down 15 on the day. As gold was $820.50, down 7 cents on the day. Over to July soybeans. In the grain markets, they closed at $6.15 3/4 today, down 5.5 cents. July corn closed at $2.65 1/4, down 0.5 cent. And the wheat was down 1/4 penny also, closing at $3.49 1/4. Now, anyone interested, I'm more than free to send you out our new market letter, which we will be coming out about the Mercantile Exchange and the Chicago Board of Trade. Feel free to call in. We have operators standing by at this point. But from the Chicago Board of Trade, have a great trading day today and tomorrow. But from the Commodity Network, I'm Edward Blumenthal.
And for Hillary Miles and Russ Benedict, I'm Mitch Leopard. This is the Financial News Final.
When we needed a new plan for our office, we called Shaw Walker. And now this plan's a reality. This Tempo 3 design has created 25% more workspace for us. All of Shaw Walker's systems are designed especially to improve workflow and productivity and add to employee comfort and job satisfaction. Is your office ready for the 80s? If you have your doubts, call Shaw Walker, the company with systems for today, ready for tomorrow. In Atlanta, call 873-5641 or your local area Shaw Walker dealer.
If you have to wait a week for business news, maybe it's not news anymore. The Wall Street Journal gives you today's business news today, so you can use it today.
Get all the business news you need when you need it. Get the Wall Street Journal, delivered every business day for 6 months for $47, just 37 cents a day. Phone toll-free 800-228-3600. That's 6 months, $47, only 37 cents a day. Phone 800-228-3600 now.
TV 36, WATL, Atlanta.
We are back from the anchor desk once again on our Financial News Final, and as we go into our second session of this edition, we will be talking about Atlanta's top 20 stocks as well as some Atlanta business news. Atlanta-based Delta Airlines, their top financial officer is predicting a modest profit for its fourth quarter and its fiscal year, which ended yesterday. Robert Oppenlander, Senior Vice President of Finance, said while numbers, will be small when compared to past years, it will be profitable as can be expected, and the achievement will be significant given the things that have happened during the past 12 months. Delta's employees' strong balance sheet and modern fleet are the reasons Oppenlander predicts that Delta will become the nation's dominant airline. Delta, unlike other airlines, can afford to purchase new aircraft, which, according to Oppenlander, is badly needed by most of the other carriers. Delta is proceeding with orders for 116 planes, including 4 Lockheed L-1011 and 42 Boeing 747s, as well as 7 Boeing 757s. Now let's take a look at Atlanta's top 20, and we'll give you the numbers and the recordings as to how those issues have been going today. All right, now from the top 20, let's take a look at our Quotron, and we'll give you a bird's eye view right now as to how the 6 most active issues did today in the Atlanta area. Scientific Atlanta was off a half a point today, trading at 11.5. Delta Airlines, which is, as we reported earlier, showing a pretty good gain for the quarter as well as for the fiscal year, off 7/8 of a point today at 33 1/8. Genuine Parts Corporation is off 3/4 of a point at 35 7/8. The Southern Company was up 1/8 of a point on the day, trading at 12.5. Georgia Pacific today was also on the upside at 1/8 and is trading at 14 1/8. And Coca-Cola trading at 33 3/4, and it is off 1/8 of a point. That has been a look at the most active issues, the 6 top ones in the Atlanta area today, as well as our top 20. And now, as we continue with more on Financial News Final, we'll be going to gold and silver. Hillary Miles is standing by, and we'll have a report from WFN Enterprises.
This is Spectrum Atlanta. I'm Mitch Leopard. We're talking to the Regional Commissioner for the Bureau of Labor Statistics, which is a division of the U.S. Department of Labor. And the person to whom we are speaking today is Don Cruz, their Regional Commissioner. When last we were talking, we were examining the 7.9% increase in wages here in the South in the first quarter of '82. I guess also as important, if not more important in many respects, is the Consumer Price Index. And I guess it has risen slightly less than the wages, so that's, as I understand it, that'd be pretty good.
Yes, that's real good. You know, for the last few years, prices have been rising quite a bit faster than wages. So on top of all the other problems that the wage earners were having, he was losing out in the inflationary area. But for the last year, looking at it from the March-April to March-April period, 81 to 82, there has been a greater increase in wages and salaries than there has been in prices. As you said, wages are running almost 8% increase in the South, where prices are running a little less than 6.5%. So you got a gap of about 1.5 percentage points there, which augurs well for the worker.
Okay, let's move on to, I guess, the latest thing that's come out of your department. That's the, well, we'll read the headline and let you set the stage. The largest southeastern metropolitan areas have shown above average employment growth in 1981. And so you had wanted to preface the details with a few facts.
Yes. This study that the news release was based on is concerned with 38 large metropolitan statistical areas in the country. And we call them large simply because we have defined large as being those with 1 million or more population according to the 1980 census. So what we're doing is taking the non-agricultural employment in those 38 cities and ranking the cities in terms of growth of that employment. 4 of these large cities are in the southeast. That's the 8 southeastern states that we usually think in terms of as being this region of the country. Now, these are Atlanta, Miami, Tampa, St. Petersburg, and joining it for the first time in 1980 or after the 1980 census, the Fort Lauderdale, Hollywood area. And what the analysis revealed was that non-agricultural growth in all 4 of these areas has been greater. Was greater in 1981 when compared to 1980 than it was for the nation as a whole. And here, of course, I'm talking on a relative basis, a percentage basis. Tampa, St. Petersburg ranked number 3. Fort Lauderdale was number 4, and Atlanta and Miami were both at number 11. And I think it's also interesting in looking at this to, as you go down the list, you'll see city after city in the almost the upper half that's located in the Sun Belt, the southeast, the southwest, and the west. Houston, by the way, was the number 1 growth area in terms of the percentage of unemployment increase, and Dallas-Fort Worth was second. But then you start comparing it with the Northeast and the Midwest, and you can see what the snow belt looks like. You have to go all the way down to number 15, which, interestingly enough, is New York City, to come to the first snow belt city in terms of percentage of growth.
Okay, we'll talk more about that. I think that's interesting that non-agricultural employment is higher in Sun Belt cities, where you think the agriculture would also be growing.
Or at least the growth.
Right.
Yes.
We'll talk a little bit more about that in the next segment that we do, as we talk with Don Cruz, the Regional Commissioner for the Bureau of Labor Statistics here in Atlanta, which is a division of the U.S. Department of Labor. This is Spectrum Atlanta. I'm Mitch Leopard.
Welcome back to the news desk. It's time for the Gold and Silver Report. We have Pat Brumlow on the phone to give us that report. She's with WFN Enterprises. Hello, Pat.
Yes.
Just fine. And what's happening with gold and silver?
Okay, today gold settled at $312.75, down $2.05 from yesterday's gold market close. Silver settled at $5.87, down 15 cents from yesterday's silver market closing price. Crude grams are selling for $339. 90% silver bags are trading at $6,811. If anyone has any questions on gold and silver investments, please feel free to call us at 938-0744. This is Pat Brumlow with the WFN Gold and Silver Closing Market Report for the day.
Well, thank you very much for your report, Pat.
Yours.
And you have a good evening. Pat Brumlow, WFN Enterprises. WFN stands for William F. Nefsky.
Today, on the Gold and Silver Report, we're most privileged to have with us as our guest Mr. Charles Fram, Vice President of Marketing of Abernathy Publications and Editor Emeritus of the Southern Jeweler magazine. Charlie has been involved in the Southern jewelry industry since 1928. Charlie, what do you think the future holds for the small family-owned jewelry store?
Bill, that's a hard question. This nation's prosperity and growth was built around the small shop owner. And in my opinion, we'll continue to find the small shop owner, and that includes the small jewelry store owner, the backbone of business. That applies to what is commonly referred to as the mom and pop store. Not necessarily in other businesses, but in the jewelry business, it has run that way as a mom and pop affair. The family-owned jewelry store. However, to survive, the small store will have to become more sophisticated in its operations, in its selling and buying, in order to survive. It can't go on the way it has in the past. The main problem in that type of a store is succession. If there is no progeny at all, or if that progeny is not interested in the store, it means that that store eventually is either sold to someone else or is sold out. And that's the end of that store.
Thank you very...
Yeah.
Oh, did you have another?
No,
Okay. Thank you very much. Today we've been interviewing Mr. Charles Fram of the Southern Jeweler magazine. I'd like to say in closing that if any of you viewers out there have questions concerning gold, silver, diamonds, or numismatics, or investments in any of these items, please feel free to write to me, Bill Nefsky, care of Channel 36, WATL-TV, Post Office Box 54556, Atlanta 30308, or call 938-0744, and I'll be most happy to try to answer your requests on this program.
It's about 18 minutes before the hour. This is Financial News Final, and I'm Hillary Miles. Looking at the overall volume on the New York Stock Exchange today, we see that it closed at 47,900,000 shares. The Dow Industrials were down probably the most that they were this week, 8.66%, leaving the Dow figure at 803.26. On the American Stock Exchange, overall volume was 3,150,000 shares. Mitch Leopard and his guest is standing by with tax law.
This is TaxWise, produced in conjunction with the Georgia Society of CPAs. Today we have with us Karen Sledge, who is the, what is your official title, assistant?
Assistant Manager, Public Service and Information Assistant Manager.
Okay, when we talked to you last, we were talking about careers as a CPA, and I know that many people who are aspiring CPAs would probably come to the Georgia Society for information. What resources do you provide to someone interested?
Well, to someone interested, we do have information about the yearly salaries that they can expect, different colleges they could attend, and we have a library full of information from anywhere from A to Z on services that are provided for them. And then once, if they are a non-CPA looking for a job, we have a job referral service, which are 3 separate listings. One is a notebook full of job leads for CPAs and non-CPAs that employers come in and place their job listings. A second is a non-CPA that would be looking for a job. We place his resumes in that book, and then CPAs looking for a job, we put their resumes in a 3rd separate book. So people are welcome to come in from 9 to 5 weekday to look through these books and to see if they can get a job lead. And this does work. I was just speaking to someone last week. He has secured 3 employees from the CPA, from the State Society's job referral program, and he's very excited about it. It's a very cost-effective way to find employees, and he always feels confident that these people will be well qualified.
If we could, maybe we could talk just for a moment about the Educational Foundation.
All right.
Could you explain just what that is?
All right. The Educational Foundation of the Georgia Society was established in 1957. Its objectives were to aid educational advancement and research relating to the teaching of accounting. And this objective is accomplished by the Foundation's matching funds with the different societies' chapters, of which there are 17 now, and awarding scholarships to qualified accounting students and to granting student loans. And these loans are repaid at a low interest rate, so it is a help to the students.
And I believe they're also involved to some extent in job placement service in conjunction with
Yes.
Georgia Society.
That's correct.
Okay. We were talking about the referral service in a previous show of TaxWise with Lily Grace, who is in charge of public information there. And we had gotten to the point of, let's assume that someone does use the referral service for finding a CPA. In general, how do they know whether they might be able to afford a CPA or not?
All right, what we can do is give them the names of some CPAs that they can call and talk with on the phone and see if, in fact, they might want to work with that CPA. The CPA can discuss over the phone some general ballpark figures of how much an individual income tax return might cost, but actually signing on the dotted line as far as an accurate figure, they would have to get together and discuss, and the CPA would have to see exactly what was involved in the preparation.
Okay, we have been talking about the Georgia Society of CPAs and the services that are available to Georgia CPAs as well as consumers in the state of Georgia. And they have also recently opened a statewide toll-free number for their statewide referral service. If you need information on the Georgia Society or on certified public accounting, their toll-free number is 1-800-282-1831. And if you live in the Atlanta area, then the number is 231-8676. I want to thank you, Karen, for being with us today.
Thank you.
Karen Sledge, Public Service and Information Assistant Manager, and also to Lily Grace Dozier, Public Service and Information Manager for the Georgia Society of Certified Public Accountants, who we produce this program in conjunction with. It is TaxWise. I'm Mitch Lucky.
Dale Carnegie course has given me the confidence to get up in front of a group and speak. As a result, I've been able to achieve my goals.
Through taking the Dale Carnegie course, I learned to overcome shyness and get across the idea that I really love and care for other people.
The results of my experience with the Dale Carnegie course has been added enthusiasm and self-confidence in my social and work life.
Getting along with people has always been important to me. Thanks to the Dale Carnegie course, I'm now realizing my goals and leading a meaningful life.
Increase your poise and self-confidence in the Dale Carnegie course.
Learn to speak more effectively, discover and develop more of your hidden abilities. Call today for more information about this practical self-improvement course. Call 634-8100. Learn to better control tension and worry. Work more effectively with people. Be more at ease in business, social, and family situations. Call 634-8100. Find out how the Dale Carnegie course can work for you.
This is the number that takes you places you might never go, shows you things you might never see, brings you face to face with beauty. This is the number that brings you Smithsonian Magazine. This is the number that shows you the lives we led, the lives we lead, the life around us. This is the number that brings you Smithsonian Magazine. Call this toll-free number for your year's subscription to Smithsonian. 12 monthly issues for $17. What's more, you'll automatically become an associate member of the Smithsonian Institution, eligible for travel benefits and book and gift discounts. Nature, art, science, history, our whole world. There's no other magazine like Smithsonian.
This is the number that brings you 12 monthly issues of Smithsonian Magazine for only $17. 800-228-6609. That's 800-228-6609. Phone now toll-free. A whole world is waiting for you.
For the hour, this is the Financial News Final from TV 36, and time for our closing comments on the market from Donnie Golson, Vice President of Investment at Bache Halsey Stewart Shields.
Good evening. This is the closing stock market commentary for Thursday, July the 1st. According to the Reagan administration, the real supply-side economic program has just begun with a July 1st tax cut. The fact that Wall Street laid an egg today might just be coincidental or might be indicative of investor uncertainty about the efficiency of Reaganomics. More than likely, today's pasting was related to yesterday's fade-out. After all, when dealing with the upside of this stock market, we are really dealing in technical terms. The bears have all the fundamental goodies. All the bulls can count on are those periodic flurries from oversold extremities. Yesterday, a promising morning session gave way to a now familiar troubles at the close. This disappointment carried forward into the morning today, and the stock market just never looked back from its journey to the south. The stock analysts at Bache are very selective about the stock market at this time. In Bache's latest report, they focus on 15 stocks that have the potential to be market leaders in the second half of the year. These 15 stocks have strong fundamentals and recession-resistant characteristics. To get your free copy of Bache's report called Focus on 15, just give me a call tomorrow at 231-4444. That's 231-4444. The Dow Industrial Average fell over 8 points to the 803 area. Declines outpaced advances by a 2-to-1 ratio, while volume remained moderate at 47 million shares. There was little in the way of cause and effect developments today. The Senate Finance Committee has come up with a tax bill that passes muster with the White House, and one important proposal is to reduce the capital gain holding period from 1 year to 6 months. On the economic front, a 1.3% rise in May construction spending dovetails with other May numbers that indicate a bottoming to the economy. The bond markets were steady, and the 7-year Treasury note auction was apparently met with favorable reception. Indeed, that could be one of the problems for the stock market. An intermediate-term Treasury note yielding close to 15% represents formidable opposition for stocks, where the S&P 500 is currently yielding about 6%. Tomorrow, we get sour unemployment figures in the morning and what we believe will be favorable money supply news after the close. Moreover, the session preceding Independence Day weekend has been up 22 times in the past 27 years. But the stock market looks troubled, and nothing happening on the Washington scene suggests that interest rates are coming down at any time soon. It looks like the summer of our discontent with periodic trading turns. That's how it looked on Wall Street today. If you have any questions on any particular stock or any comments, please give me a call. The next two market updates are at 10:05 tomorrow morning and 12 o'clock. I'm Donnie Golson from the Atlanta office of Bache. Have a great evening, and thank you.
For those of you who are new to financial news today and are unfamiliar with the Quotron readout you see on the bottom of your screen, I'd like to offer this brief explanation. The top two lines represent the symbols, volume, and latest trading prices of all stocks on the New York Stock Exchange. The bottom line represents the same information from the American Stock Exchange. Each symbol is followed by the price per share on the latest transaction to the nearest eighth of a dollar. For example, IBM may be selling at 60 3/8. Occasionally, a large block of shares will be sold, and our Quotron will display this information by preceding the share price with the number of shares sold in the block. It'll look something like this. IBM sold a block of 500 shares at 60 3/8. The 0 digits are omitted on the number of shares traded. When trading is very heavy, the Quotron will drop the first digit of the price per share. For example, if you're used to seeing Eastman Kodak selling at 62 3/8, you'd see EK selling for 2 3/8. When normal trading resumes, the usual digits reappear. One other note. Quotron runs continuously from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. The display is interrupted by commercial breaks, but is picked up again at its uninterrupted point, so we may bring you no more than a 15-minute delay from Wall Street. If you need an interpretation of stock symbols, ask your broker for a symbol directory, which is usually available free of charge.
Returning now to the anchor desk in these final moments now of financial news. Finally, a second mortgage on the MGM Grand Hotel has been filed with the Clark County Recorder's Office in Las Vegas. It's all a part of a loan arrangement with the First Interstate Bank. The second mortgage permits the hotel to borrow up to $94 million. MGM Grand officials estimate about $75 million has been borrowed so far, most of it for reconstruction following the 1980 fire, which resulted in some 85 deaths. ARCO has struck oil in the Santa Barbara Channel of California for the second major oil discovery in these same waters in less than a week now. Last Thursday, Texaco reported a significant discovery off of Point Conception in federal waters.
The FTC has dismissed a 1976 antitrust complaint against GM involving the company's refusal to sell replacement parts to anyone other than its franchise dealers. The commission held that there was substantial business justification for the policy to offset what it called the competitive injury suffered by independent body shops. In an unrelated development, GM is recalling some 10,000 new Camaro Z28 models to eliminate the possibility of water leaks into the engine. The company is also investigating reports of the pressure built up in the car's fuel tank that, in at least one case, caused a fuel cap to fly 25 feet through the air. Auto industry sources say the car makers plan to build about 1.4 million cars during the quarter that began today. That would be about 2.5% more than were built in last year's third quarter, but it also is 5% less than industry estimates made just a month ago. Chrysler Canada has offered to sell an unprofitable spring and equipment plant in Windsor, Ontario to its workers for the baffling price of $1. The UAW is skeptical of the offer, though, and it feels it is simply a ploy to obtain wage and benefit concessions.
The Reagan administration threw its support behind a $98.4 billion package of tax increases written by Senate Finance Committee Republicans. Assistant Treasury Secretary John Shafferton told the committee that the administration supported the package with two relatively small exceptions. Senate Finance Committee Chairman Bob Dole told the committee that he would like the package approved, if possible, late today or tomorrow. Democrats, however, complained that they had not enough time to study the 26 provisions of that plan.
A U.S. government official has urged that the details of the IBM computer secrets case should be revealed quickly to avoid bad feelings between the United States and Japan. If the case is drawn out and becomes a series of revelations, it can create a lot of bad feeling between the U.S. and Japan, the official said at a background briefing for reporters on U.S.-Japanese trade matters. The U.S. official, who declined to be identified, said at the government level, Japan and the U.S. right now can recognize this as a criminal case, which is going through the due process of U.S. law.
Optimism for the economy advanced for the second consecutive quarter among the nation's top business leaders, but their view of their own industries remains cautious, the conference board reported. The board's measure of business confidence advanced 5 points to 52 in the second quarter, following a 4-point gain in the first quarter. Chief executive appraisal of current economic conditions jumped to 30 from 23 in the first quarter, but their view of current conditions in their own industries compared to 6 months ago, it inched up to 32 from 29. Executives may be rather more convinced by the forecast of a general economic pickup than they are by the evidence at hand in their own industries, said Laura S. Collins, Director of Business Conditions Analysis at the board. Expectations for the economy in the coming 6 months advanced to 64 from 59 in the first quarter, and business leaders viewed for their own industries rose to 61 from 58 in the first 3 months of the year. But the expectations haven't so far translated into spending money for the plant and equipment and inventories, noted the Conference Board, a nonprofit business research group.
Well, that is Financial News Final for this day. For Hillary Miles and Russ Benedict and former Director John Busby, this is Financial News Final. We'll see you tomorrow morning at 10 a.m.
Almost Live. It's Saturday night, Monday through Friday at 7 on TV 36, WATL Atlanta.
Jive is a deluxe 2-record set and is an exclusive TV offer, not available anywhere else at any price.
Well, you can rock it, you can roll it, stop and even stroll it at the hop, hop, hop. 2 girls for every boy. I bought a 32 wagon and we call it a wood.
The greatest hits of rock and roll are on Jukebox Jive. To order your 2-record set, listen carefully.
To order, call toll-free 1-800-453-1900. That's 1-800-453-1900. Or save COD charge, send $9.95 for record, $10.95 for 8-track or cassette to Jukebox Jive, Box 5456, Atlanta, Georgia, 30308. Or call toll-free now.
Afternoon rally and the stock market showed its first gain in 6 weeks. May retail sales rose 1.5% and a victory for President Reagan on the budget.
Wholesale food prices posted moderate gains for the month of May. Pollster Lou Harris says an air of desperation has settled over the entire nation. And most of the experts right now are saying that interest rates do not have a very good chance of declining at all during the balance of this year.
Unemployment insurance benefits are down. Pension plans are being accused of being overly generous by the Treasury Department, and the Social Security is ahead of last year in collection from overpaid recipients.
And 3 major oil companies have raised their wholesale gasoline prices to as much as 2 cents a gallon. We'll have news on these and other stories as Financial News Today begins in just a moment.
Look, if you're an investor who's tired of being too late when investments are heading up, too late when they're heading down, look ahead. Look into Barron's. Every week, Barron's gives you page after page of useful investment information, days, weeks, even months ahead. Every week, 34 pages of market statistics, in-depth studies of companies, a dividends and earnings alert on all New York Stock Exchange and Amex stocks, exclusive analyses covering the whole world of investing. All you need to know not to be too late. Every week in Barron's. If you call this toll-free number now, you can get 26 weeks of Barron's for just $28. Call right now, and you'll also get free Understanding Technical Forecasting, an informative booklet that shows you how professionals use Barron's. 26 weeks of Barron's plus this revealing booklet for only $28. Look ahead. Look into Barron's. Call 800-453-9500 now, before it's too late.
Hello, I'm Lyle Wagoner.
And I'm Lee Manning.
Join us next week for a preview of the best of the new movie releases on Hollywood Previews.
Guest stars Didi Khan and Lorna Luft will preview their new movie, Grease 2.
And we'll show you clips from Hanky Panky and Diner.
Plus, a behind-the-scenes look at the special effects of Poltergeist.
Hollywood Previews, Sunday at 5 on TV 36.
Almost live. It's Saturday night, Monday through Friday at 7 on TV 36, WATL Atlanta.
TV 36, WATL, Atlanta.
Good morning. This is Financial News Today on TV 36. I'm Mitch Leopard, along with Hillary Miles and Russ Benedict. A last-minute buying surge propelled the stock market to its first gain in 6 sessions yesterday. Prior to the House voting approval of a Republican budget plan, trading was fairly active. Takeover situations were in the spotlight, with Fabergé scoring the biggest gain. The Dow Jones Industrial Average, which fell 6.66 on Wednesday to a 3-month low, rose 3.14 to 798.71. Previously, it had skidded 73.63 since May the 7th. Buying erupted in the last half hour when it appeared that the Dow Jones Industrial Average would not crash below its 1982 low of 795.47 on March the 8th, which was the lowest level since a 789.25 reading on April 23rd of 1980. The New York Stock Exchange Index gained 0.29 to 62.97, and the price of an average share of stock increased by 12 cents. Standard & Poor's 500 stock index jumped 0.62 to 109.61, and Advance's edge declined 710 to 660 among the 1,843 issues crossing the New York Stock Exchange tape. Big board volume slumped to 50,950,000 shares from the 55,770,000 traded on Wednesday, which was the busiest session since May the 13th. The market had already closed when the House, under pressure from President Reagan and the nation's markets, approved a Republican budget measure after rejecting a Democratic plan. Experts have said that interest rates would not decline until Congress enacts a 1983 budget, and even then there is no guarantee because the Treasury is going to have to borrow heavily in the private sector. First National Bank of Boston, which last week lowered its prime rate to 16%, returned its key charge to 16.5%. That left Citibank as the only major lender at the current 16% level.
May retail sales rose approximately 1.5%, but another survey showed that businesses plan to spend 2.8% less this year on new plants and equipment than they did just a year ago. News that Israeli forces have blitzed PLO forces and Syrian strongholds in Lebanon disturbed many of the investors yesterday because of possible havoc in the entire area of the international markets. President Reagan demanded that Israel call a ceasefire and agreed to consult with Saudi Arabia about the current crisis. Composite volume of New York Stock Exchange issues listed on all of the U.S. exchanges over the counter, as well as of 4 o'clock yesterday afternoon, totaled 56,403,900 shares. That compared with 62,361,800 shares that had been traded on Wednesday. The American Stock Exchange Index eased 0.05 to 254.57. There was no change in the price of a share. Declines edging the advancing issues yesterday, 274 to 212 among the 710 issues that had been traded. Volume totaling 4,130,000 shares compared with 3,500,000 540,000 shares on the American exchange that were traded on Wednesday. The National Association of Securities Dealers NASDAQ index of over-the-counter issues yesterday gaining 0.43 to 171.37.
On the trading floor, Fabergé soared from 7 1/4 to 21 3/4 in active trading. The company said it was holding talks aimed at another firm acquiring Fabergé and would make the announcement next Tuesday. Fabergé stock recently took a pounding after the company decided temporarily to forego an attempt to persuade the Federal Drug Administration to clear its home breast cancer screening indicator. Litco Bancor climbed 3 3/8 to 35 3/8. The Federal Reserve has approved Litco's acquisition by the Banca Commerciale Italiana of Milan, Italy. Mesa Petroleum, which was bidding for City Services stock, was the most active New York Stock Exchange listed issue, up 1/4 to 18, with a block of 111,400 shares at 17 3/4. City Service, which is after Mesa's stock, eased 1/4 to 34.5 in active trading. Halliburton was second most active issue, off 1/2 to 28 7/8, after a block of 413,000 shares cleared at 28 1/4. Schlumberger added 1 1/8 to 39.5 in heavy trading. Exxon was the third most active issue, up 1/8 to 28 with a block of 255,000 shares at 27 7/8. Other energy and related issues were mixed. U.S. Steel lost 1 to 19 7/8. The company is working on a number of fundraising schemes, including the proposed sale of its Pittsburgh headquarters to pay for its purchase of Marathon Oil. American Telephone and Telegraph added 3/8 to 51 3/8 in heavy trading. The Federal Communications Commission has approved AT&T's plan to finance its new unregulated subsidiary that will offer a wide range of new telephone services.
It is now 7 minutes past the hour of 10. Good morning from Financial News Today. We'll be back with opening comments from Donnie Golson at Beige, but first this timeout.
There are a lot of newsletters being offered, but there is only one with a money-back guarantee. I'm Kevin Malloy, and if any stock recommendation in the Malloy on the Market newsletter fails to give your investment a profit, we will fully refund the entire cost of your subscription. We also offer a unique options service. It's the Options Alarm. As a subscriber to the Options Alarm, you will receive phone calls made during market trading hours, advising you which options to buy. We also advise you when it's time to sell them. If the fast-moving options market is for you, you don't want to be without Malloy on the Market's Options Alarm. Malloy on the Market puts its money where its advice is. Call 1-800-621-0743. That's 1-800-621-0743. That's Malloy on the Market.
9 minutes past the hour. Good morning from Financial News Today. Time now for our opening comments on market from Sue Bennett at Beige, Halsey, Stewart, Shields.
Yesterday, the politicians agonized their way into the land of economic reality, and in the cold light of morning, they mulled over the audacity of their action. The House budgetary vote was close, and there's still a long reconciliation process with the Senate to come. But there can be little doubt that yesterday's action represented a small ray of sunshine to an investment community starved for affection. The long-term bond market spurted in late afternoon trading, and we would expect a good morning pop in the equity side today. The vote comes at a time when the market is extremely oversold and where the shorts have been getting a trifle rambunctious. In other words, the technical conditions are present for an upside probe, and we now have a fundamental peg to hang our hats on. There are also signs that the tense Middle East situation may be easing just a touch, and we get some positive figures on inflation this morning. Factoring in the disinclination of traders to carry a heavy weekend positions in troublesome international environment, we still have every reason to expect a bracing session. If there is an inclination to sell into strength, and if the market pulls the old fade out this afternoon, we would recommend a hard hat on Monday morning. Would you be interested in a financial product that currently pays 12.25%, avoids income tax, has no market risk, actually reduces your current income taxes, and your money is readily available when you want it? There's a financial product that does everything I just mentioned. For further information, call me now at 231-4444. That's 231-4444. On the calendar, the May Producer Price Index will be released. We expect a rise of 0.4% or about 5% annual rate. On the monetary front, Citibank is all by its lonesome at 16%, with a large Boston bank having returned to 16.5% yesterday. However, the bond market sentiment may be enhanced by the budgetary vote, and we anticipate an ineffective money supply figure after the close, something on the order of minus $500 million. Let's look for a good opening spurt, some second hour settling back, and then retention of gains through the afternoon. Be it coincidence or divine intervention, the Dow 795 level has held for the fourth time in the past 3 months. With negative breadth figures in 18 out of 20 previous sessions, and with sentiment indicators overwhelmingly pessimistic, it was really a matter of time before we got ourselves a pop. One can never pin these things down precisely, but it's been clear for the past week that percentages were working against the short side. We do not pretend that a bull market has suddenly emerged full-blown out of the narrow vote in Congress. Normally focused on a bit should be shunned altogether. The difference here is that the issue was in doubt until the final vote, so the discounting process was not at work. If the market does not fade, we feel momentum could carry the blue chip index back up to the 830 level. 2 economic releases yesterday were prophetic. One was a 1.5% rise in the May retail sales, suggesting that consumers are beginning to loosen up on the purse strings. The other is the survey of capital spending intentions, showing that plant and equipment spending will drop 2.4% from 1981. The conclusion is that the consumer is going to have to carry the load in the second half recovery, aided and abetted by the tax cut. The big bellwether, housing, autos, and capital spending, are going to be laid back. Data Resources said the main reason that plans for capital spending are so low is that businesses cannot afford expansion. The good news out of the Middle East is that Israel and Syria have declared a ceasefire. The Israeli cabinet said it has accomplished all of its military goals. Otherwise, on Wall Street, U.S. stocks are higher in Europe. Dealers say some aggressive trading has taken place based on the House vote and the ceasefire in Lebanon. London gold is up 25 cents to $3.27. In addition to the feature on home computer, the journal also carries stories on holly sugar and movie stocks. The Times has a feature on the fading oil boom in the Rockies and on the improving trend in the mobile home or factory home industry. And the Post has a feature on Fabergé. Our next 2 updates will be at 12:05 and at 4:25 today. If you have any questions or comments, please give us a call. This is Sue Bennett from the Atlanta office of H. Halsey, Stewart, Shields.
Thank you, Sue. It is 13 minutes now past the hour of 10 o'clock. House Republicans and conservative Democrats combined their strength yesterday, as they did so often last year, and passed a 1983 budget proposal. This plan was put together by Republican leadership and had the backing of President Reagan, who had telephoned from Germany to urge its passage. Earlier, the Democratic-controlled House voted 225 to 202 against a Democratic budget alternative. The GOP plan, which won approval, cuts deeply into domestic spending and contains a proposed $765 billion price tag. Authors say it will produce a $99 billion deficit, but congressional budget experts put that red ink figure at $110 billion. Sharp words were exchanged on the House floor before final passage of the budget. Democrat Thomas Downey of New York called the Republican alternative a scorched earth budget, vicious in what it does to the working poor. But GOP leader Robert Michael of Illinois defended the package as a good one. It is the best we can get.
Wholesale food prices posted moderate gains last month, but that was offset by the 5th straight monthly decline in energy costs. So, says the Labor Department, wholesale prices, as measured by the Producer Price Index, remained steady for the entire month of May. That means that for the first 5 months of this year, inflation at the wholesale level was running at the annual rate of just 0.4%. And that bolsters the predictions of the economists that for all of 1982, the wholesale inflation rate will be well under the 7% of last year.
Labor Department figures show that unemployment insurance benefits, went to almost 94,500 fewer workers during the week ended May 22nd than in the week before. Pollster Lou Harris said that An air of desperation has settled over the nation, with nearly half the people believing America is locked in a depression. And in other news, Washington has given approval to American Telephone and Telegraph's plans to set up a new subsidiary that will offer computerized communications services. Despite a major hike in the Bank of Canada's lending rate, the Canadian dollar fell to a record low today. At the close of the trading day, the Canadian dollar was equal to 79.10 U.S. cents.
Senate and House conferees wrapping up work on an emergency money measure agreed yesterday on a reduced 5-year, $3 billion middle-income housing proposal that President Reagan has hinted that he might veto. Senator Jake Garn, chairman of the Senate Banking Committee, and Representative Edward Boland, chairman of the House Appropriations House Subcommittee, announced that the compromise plan is going to boost the sagging housing industry. The members of the conference committee accepted it quickly and completed work on the 82 urgent supplemental appropriations bill. That measure, which includes money for a number of agencies and projects, now goes back to each chamber for final action. Conferees also agreed to repeal the automatic $75 a day tax deduction for Washington living expenses that Congress voted itself last year. But the Senate members rejected a proposal by the House negotiators to limit all earned outside income for members of Congress to 30% of their base salary of $60,662. That proposal now goes back to the House. It is 16 minutes past the hour of 10. Good morning from Financial News Today. We'll be back with more, including an executive report, but first this time.
It's the greatest clearance sale ever. Jeeps as low as $127. Typewriters as low as $10. Yes, how would you like to buy surplus goods directly from the government? You can if you know how. Jeeps cost the government thousands. Yet if you know how, you can pick them up for as little as $127. Sure, they might need work, but at prices like this, how can you go wrong? And there's brand name typewriters, manual and electric, as low as $10 each. Brands like IBM, Smith Corona, Remington, you name it, the government buys just about everything and eventually sells what it can, often at ridiculous prices. And just look at what they sell. Clothing, cars and parts, adding machines, file cabinets, tractors, machinery, electrical equipment, and more. How would you like to cash in on special sales like these? What's inside information like this worth? $100? $500? $1,000? Well, it's all yours now for just $9.98. It's just one chapter in an amazing new book, Thousands in Government Benefits Free or Almost Free. The book that tells you where to find out about lucrative government contracts, low-cost government loans, good-paying civil service jobs. Now is it worth $9.98? There's even more valuable information on small business loans, farm loans, low-cost acreage, vocational scholarships and grants, hidden Social Security benefits thousands may be missing out on. So what are you waiting for? Cash in on these benefits now. Here's how to order.
To order, call 1-800-453-4000. Receive almost $3 in COD charges plus postage by sending $9.98 to Free Benefits. P.O. Box 54556, Atlanta, Georgia, 30308. That's Free Benefits. P.O. Box 54556, Atlanta, Georgia, 30308. Or call 1-800-453-4000. That's 1-800-453-4000.
Welcome to Executive Report. I'm Hillary Miles. My guest in this series is Mr. Nathan Langston, who's the Southern Regional Vice President of Western Temporary Services. Your business has been doing very well all around the country. Is it doing better as Southern Regional Vice President, is it doing better in this region as it is, say, in the Northeast?
Well, we're still, I think, holding our own, considering the total economic picture throughout the country, and we've actually made some gains here in the Southeast in the last month or 6 weeks that give us a lot of encouragement about the total economic picture here. Everything's relative, I guess, when you speak of these type things, but by and large, we've made some gains in some areas. Some areas we've lost some ground, but overall, we've probably made an overall slight gain in the business atmosphere versus some other parts of the country. Other parts of the country have been more hard hit than we have in the South.
We have been fortunate here.
Yes.
This is the Sun Belt, and everybody
Yes,
is
the big growth area.
Right, flocking to the Sun Belt. What about the future of Western?
Well, Western at this time, as we discussed, is a private company, and I really don't have any idea as to what the president of the company, Mr. Stover, Robert W. Stover, who was the original founder of the company, or W. Robert Stover, I should say, has for going public or anything like that. But we have nine different divisions within our company. Some of the big growth areas that we're looking for in the future are technical temporary help. Of course, our medical division has grown at a very high rate in the last 5 to 6 years, and that's one of our high growth divisions. Clerical has been our mainstay over the years, and we also have a Santa and a video and marketing divisions and industrial divisions, so we're very diversified in trying to fill customers' total needs whenever they call upon us. But we're going to be concentrating as much as we can in the higher growth areas. Technology should be one of those in the future, because that's one of the emphasis right now in our economy with the defense spending increases and other technological improvements in computers and all sorts of electronic gadgets. So that'll be an area where we're going to be trying to have a lot of targeted growth for the next few years.
So Western really does closely follow the economy, sees where the growth companies are, and takes its cue from that.
We do our best to do that, yes.
In your own opinion, where do you think our economy is going in the next 5 years?
Well, obviously I'm no economic expert, but trying to read and the various things that we see in the newspapers and other reports, and trying to put that together and mesh it with our own offices that we have around the Southeast, and seeing where they're going, I feel like that the economy as a whole hopefully has bottomed out. We feel like that in our offices anyway, that we've started making some gains now where we made losses before. We hope that's not a false indicator, but if that's the case, we still feel like will be flat for another 2 or 3 months maybe, hopefully not that long. But if we can continue to hold our own at this point and continue to make slight gains, whatever they may be, I think that the economy is about to take a turnaround and hopefully going to start at least a slow, steady growth. I hope we don't take another spurt and then